On to Chelsea. Chelsea Supporters Trust has written to Richard Masters about Todd Boehly's involvement in Vivid Seats. Could the Premier League potentially step in on this one?
Well, I think overall, I don't think they can particularly specify Todd Boehly in Vivid Seats. I think they have to look at this sort of area in general and the touting of tickets overall, and in some way they could probably try and step in. I had heard that Vivid Seats have had Chelsea tickets on there for something up to £10,000 in some cases, or some of the hospitality programs, which is phenomenal. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the rumour was that I've been hearing. Look, it does. It's such a bad look, and you'd think that Bowley would have at least told them, if you're going to do this, don't do it with Chelsea at least. I know he's not involved day to day; it is just an investment for him. But still, he's guilt by association, and it gives them a headache and a problem with the Premier League that he doesn't really need. So I'm surprised they haven't intervened or even just said, not don't do anything on the Premier League just now. He has got a responsibility to set the tone and how things are done. So I'm sure the Premier League, in this case, if I was Richard Masters, I'd be having a quiet word behind the scenes and said, look, we're going to start to do something about this whole area, and not just you, but we are going to come in pretty heavily. We could embarrass you, so please, try and sort it out, Mr. Bowley.
And Chelsea owners have issued £65 million of shares. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, 65 million. Well, I think they've put in about 350 million by my calculations recently. I think from looking at the numbers, I think that's going to go towards some of the transfer debt that's already owed on acquisitions. So I think that's going to be a good way to put cash in without taking on debt, and then they'll pay down some of those instalments that they still owe on some of the players they've got. So it will still keep the books in relative shape. But hey, Chelsea and money is an interesting question.
And Chelsea have reported 128 million pounds of profit after selling the women's side to themselves. We spoke about this a little earlier while it happened, but now that it's really being reported by the club itself, how can this be allowed moving forward? I mean, people are up in arms about this.
Yeah, as I just said, Chelsea and money, it's a very interesting question. And that's really what I'm alluding to here, is how they're getting to do this. Look, they obviously haven't broken the rules, but we know that they have bent the rules. There's no doubt about it that this doesn't pass the smell test as far as I'm concerned. It is not the spirit of the way things should be done. And to be allowed to get away with this, I mean, as I understand it, the valuation on the women's team is something like 18 times revenue, which is unheard of. There was one comparable, I think, with the ladies' team in LA that was sold recently that had a big multiple. But, LA, Hollywood, I don't know if that really works in terms of London and Chelsea. I certainly don't. I'm amazed that they've been able to get this through. And it was very important that they did get it through, and they have got it through. So look, it's just not the right way to do it. As I said, Bowley and his tickets and Vivid Seats, it doesn't smell right, and there's something wrong about the tone of that he's supposed to set. This is the same thing. And well, they had the hotel deal as well that's gone through, and then there'll be the training ground, etc. Well, it seems to be smart private equity thinking. I don't think it's right, and I just think that this is going to create, this is just showing, perhaps to me, an ignorance of the way that things should be done. They have wasted a lot of that money that they've created from these loopholes, and they have not spent it wisely. And that's where they should be more concerned. And perhaps there wasn't the need to create these loopholes, to create such big sums of money, if they'd actually focused on getting it right on the football side, rather than embarrass themselves with losing so much money. So overall, as an investor, I'd be pretty, I'd be pretty angry with them in the way that they have wasted money, as far as I'm concerned, and needed these loopholes. So overall, look, we can't say that they're going to be in trouble for it, but we can say we disapprove, and it's not the way that I'd like to have seen things happen. And I think a lot of their competitors will look down their noses at them as well, and it'll come home to roost in some way in the future, believe me.